Imagine a continent shackled by colonial rule, a people yearning for freedom, and a leader bold enough to dream of a united Africa. This is the story of Dr. Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, the man who dared to defy the greatest empires, inspired a revolution, and ignited a movement for independence across Africa. But who was Kwame Nkrumah beyond the speeches and the slogans? How did a young boy from a small village rise to become the voice of a continent? Join me as I unravel the incredible life of Kwame Nkrumah, a story of struggle, ambition, and a vision that still echoes today. Kwame Nkrumah was born on September 21st, 1909 in Nkroful, a small village in the western region of what was then the Gold Coast. Growing up in a modest family, Nkrumah was shaped by the values and traditions of his community. His father was a goldsmith and his mother a retail trader. They instilled in him the importance of hard work and determination. But even in his early life, Nkrumah showed a hunger for knowledge that set him apart. At a very young age, Nkrumah attended a Roman Catholic primary school in Half Esini, where his brilliance was evident. His exceptional intellect soon caught the attention of Reverend Alec Fraser, principal of the Government Training College in Accra, who saw in him a spark of something extraordinary and encouraged him to pursue higher education. In 1930, Nkrumah enrolled in Achimota College, one of the Gold Coast's most prestigious institutions. Here he encountered Dr. James Iman Aggrey, a visionary educator whose teachings would leave a profound mark on Nkrumah's developing worldview. Aggrey believed that Africans could achieve greatness through unity and education, inspired Nkrumah deeply. Aggrey famously said, "You can play a tune on the white keys and you can play a tune on the black keys, but both are needed for perfect harmony." This powerful metaphor for racial equality and unity would resonate with Nkrumah for the rest of his life, shaping his vision for both Ghana and Africa. Aggrey's commitment to education and his belief in the potential of Africans to lead their own destiny influenced Nkrumah's early ideas about freedom and unity. Nkrumah began to see education not just as a tool for personal advancement, but as a means to liberate an entire continent. This idea would become the cornerstone of his political philosophy. Determined to broaden his understanding and sharpen his mind, Nkrumah left for the United States in 1935. He enrolled at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, a historically black university that fostered an environment of intellectual rigor and political discourse. Here, Nkrumah studied economics, sociology, and theology, and later moved to the University of Pennsylvania to study education and philosophy. In America, Nkrumah faced not only the hardships of being a foreign student, but also the harsh realities of racism and economic struggle. He worked odd jobs, mopping floors, waiting tables, to fund his education. Despite these challenges, Nkrumah's thirst for knowledge was unquenchable. He became an active member of the African Students Association and was heavily influenced by the writings of Marcus Garvey, W.E.B. Du Bois, Karl Marx, and Lenin. He also carried with him the teachings of Aggrey, blending them with socialist ideas and the principles of nonviolent resistance inspired by Mahatma Gandhi. The 1930s and the 1940s were a time of global upheaval. The Second World War had shaken the foundations of imperial powers, and across the world, cries for freedom were growing louder. Nkrumah, fully immersed in the intellectual and political currents of his time, began to formulate a radical vision. He believed that the liberation of Africa could not be achieved piecemeal. It required a united front, a collective struggle against colonialism. In 1945, Nkrumah moved to London, where he co-organized the 5th Pan-African Congress in Manchester. This event was a turning point for Nkrumah and many African leaders of his generation. The Congress declared that colonialism had to end, and it set the stage for a wave of independence movements across Africa. It was here that Nkrumah first laid out his bold vision for a united and liberated Africa, a vision that many dismissed as impossible. In 1947, Nkrumah was invited to return to the Gold Coast by the United Gold Coast Convention, also known as UGCC, a political party seeking self-government. Appointed as the General Secretary of the UGCC, Nkrumah quickly became disillusioned with the party's cautious approach. He was a man in a hurry, a visionary who could not wait. Nkrumah's impatience with the slow pace of change led him to break away and form his own party, the Convention People's Party, CPP, in 1949. The CPP was a different kind of movement, dynamic, populist, and uncompromising. Its message was clear: self-government now. Nkrumah mobilized the masses, leading strikes, boycotts, and protests that sent shockwaves through the colonial administration. But his radical approach did not go unnoticed by the British colonial authorities. In 1950, in fact, Nkrumah was arrested and imprisoned for inciting protest and civil disobedience. Yet, rather than breaking his spirit, this only made him a symbol of resistance. From his prison cell, Nkrumah continued to inspire and mobilize the masses. In 1951, while still imprisoned, the CPP won a decisive victory in the national elections. The people had spoken, and Nkrumah was released to lead the government towards independence. Finally, on March 6, 1957, the impossible became reality. The Gold Coast became Ghana, the first sub-Saharan African country to gain independence from colonial rule. In front of an ecstatic crowd, Nkrumah declared, "The independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of the African continent." But this victory was just the beginning. Nkrumah's vision went beyond Ghana's borders, aiming for a united Africa, a dream that would prove both his greatest triumph and his most formidable challenge. But what happened next? As Nkrumah took the reins of a newly independent Ghana, he faced a series of challenges that would test his vision, his leadership, and his legacy. How did he transform his revolutionary ideals into actionable policies? And how did his efforts to modernize Ghana shape its future? In our next episode, we will dive into the domestic policies of Kwame Nkrumah and examine the successes and controversies that define his leadership. Stay tuned.